Hey everybody, Neil Thompson, founder of Teach the Geek here. I work with technical professionals so they present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. For those of you who don't know, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and every now and then I do a poll, and I'm really curious as to the comments and the outcomes of these polls. So this poll that I did, I'm going to talk about, had to do with people who are working in the technical fields and I guess their comfort with public speaking or giving presentations. And I was curious because based on my own experience working as an engineer and having to give presentations in front of management, I noticed that I wasn't that great at it. And a lot of the other engineers that I worked with, they weren't all that great at it either. So it got me thinking, is this just a STEM thing or a technical type person thing? Are we just not that great at public speaking in general? So that's basically the question that I asked in my poll. Are people that work in the technical fields just inherently not that great at public speaking? And so I like to go through some of the results and then some of the insights that I took away from the poll as well. So one of the options that people had to or could have picked from was they're introverts. That's the reason why perhaps they're not that great at giving presentations. And one of the commenters that commented on the poll said this: Many are perceived as and are totally, many are perceived as and are socially awkward or introverts. We are product focused and not customer service selling focused most times. And that was a pretty interesting take. I am an introvert myself, and I do find that a lot of people who work in the technical fields, they tend to be introverts too. And it very well could be the case that they are more product focused. And that's fine, although it might be difficult to convince other people of the importance of that product. That's really what you need to do in a lot of cases. I had to give presentations in front of management, and I had to convince them that this product, whatever I was working on, this project that I was working on, was worth continuing to work on. If I was just focused on the features, for instance, of the product, that doesn't really give them a sense of the importance of the product. It's just what I think is cool about the product, but who cares? Is this going to make money for the company? Ultimately, is what these decision makers wanted to know, and it wasn't something that I was focusing on in those presentations, and that was to my detriment. So I think this person who made that comment is correct in saying that being an introvert is I mean, that's not inherently bad, but we need to get over that. Certainly, we need to get over that, just being up in front of people. But we also need to focus on what the people that we are speaking to, what they want to know, as opposed to what we think is important. So the next option they could have picked was technical presentations are hard to do, and that got 33% of the votes. And a commenter that picked this option said this: taking the technical information and presenting it to senior leadership who usually have business backgrounds and little technical know-how is really hard. You have to speak the senior leadership language and translate your technical knowledge into what the senior leadership understands. That kind of goes to what I had said before, this idea of us being enamored, us being technical people, being enamored with perhaps the technical aspects of a project and not really taking into account what the people what we're speaking to actually want to know. I mean, how long is this going to take, this project or this project you're working on? How much money do you anticipate it making for the company? How much money do we have to put into it for us to determine what our return on investment is going to be? Is it going to be ready for a conference? I work in medical devices, and that always seemed to be something that these decision makers want to know. We want to be able to present this product at this upcoming conference. Will it be ready by then? Oftentimes the answer was no. But who's telling them that? I did not have that kind of confidence. I wish I had back then. But ultimately, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, take your own feelings aside on what you think is important. What do these people think is important? And that's what you need to really present to them to convince them that this is something that needs to be continued, that this is a project or a product that is worthy of investment of time and resources, money, that type of thing. The third option they had was it's not harder for people in the technical fields to present. So this is just inherently saying it's not any more difficult for them than for anybody else. And that got 30% of the vote. And a commenter had to say this about that: those in STEM are no different to those in other areas, and I think they also have a hard time presenting. Personally, two of the biggest factors that help in presenting is to have a very solid understanding of the subject itself. This gives the presenter a good level of confidence. The other factor would be preparation and practice. Yeah, knowing the material well, that certainly will help. I can't even imagine getting up in front of people not knowing what I'm talking about and being expected to talk for any appreciable length of time on that subject. For those who are able to do it, kudos to them. But oftentimes they do get found out in the Q&A section. So you certainly don't want to ever be in that position if you can help it. And practicing, as they mentioned, that's important too. And just getting those reps. You can read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, watch all the YouTube videos you want on getting better at giving presentations, but until you actually do it a number of times, you won't see that growth. It's just practice makes progress. You have to actually get out there and do it to get better at it. And then the last option they had was other. That was kind of just a catch-all, and that received 10% of the votes. And a commenter had this to say about it. We scientists and engineers tend to think in terms of presenting the data, and the data will speak for itself. But good communication is a form of persuasion, and we don't get much practice at that, and often don't realize it's necessary. Yeah, I fully agree. We just think we just put the data out there and that's that. What more do you want? But especially if you're speaking to a group of people who are outside your field of expertise, you're going to need to convince them that this data is important. Okay, you showed me this data. So what? Why should I care about this data? How does this data improve my life? How does data improve the company's life ultimately? That's really the question you need to ask. And I know for myself, that's not really something I ever considered when I had to give presentations in front of management. And it's definitely something that I regret. It's certainly something that I would focus on moving forward if I ever was in that position again. If you're talking to decision makers, they're going to want to know. As I said, you're going to have to convince them. This data is all fine and good, but why should what about this data should compel me to allow you to continue on developing this product or continue on with this project? And that's a question you really need to ask yourself when preparing your presentation. So you certainly will have an answer if that question were to ever come up. So this was a really interesting poll that I put out there. You might have noticed, I believe it was the second option. Let's see. I believe the second option. Yeah, 33% of the votes. Technical presentations are hard to do. That's the one that had the highest number of votes. And it's certainly true. I mean, taking something that's technical and putting it in a way that non-technical people especially can understand, that's no small feat. But with some practice and some adequate preparation, it's certainly doable. So that's what I want to say about this poll. It was a very interesting poll. Quite a number of people responded to it. There was over 90 comments, so I just picked 4 of the 90 that I could have chosen from. And we'll see what happens with any future polls that I do. Again, my name is Neil Thompson, founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals on their presentation skills, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. And always, please remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Every little bit helps. Thanks again, and have a great week.